This is the VOA Special English Development Report. Millions of babies and children could soon be protected against the deadly disease, pneumonia. Two leading drug companies have agreed to supply vaccines against pneumococcal disease to the world's poorest countries at a reduced price. Pfizer and GlaxoSmithKline signed the historic Advance Market Commitment Agreement in March. The Global Alliance for Vaccines and Immunizations, or Gavi, helped negotiate the deal. The group says the low-cost vaccines could save as many as 7 million lives by the year 2030. The World Health Organization says pneumonia kills almost 2 million children each year. This is more than AIDS, malaria, and measles combined. It is the leading cause of death among young children, and more than 90% of those deaths happen in the developing world. These are all reasons why Gavi chose the pneumococcal vaccine for its first Advance Market Commitment project. The private-public partnerships are designed to increase the availability of low-cost vaccines in poor areas. Last year, the governments of Italy, the United Kingdom, Canada, Russia, and Norway joined with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. They provided $1.5 billion to launch the pneumococcal vaccine project. Jeffrey Rowland is with the Gavi Alliance. He says the money helps to persuade drug makers to take part in the project. GlaxoSmithKline and Pfizer are the first two drug companies to take part. They have agreed to provide 30 million doses of the vaccine each year for 10 years. The first 20% of the vaccines will sell for $7 a dose. The remaining 80% will cost $3.50 per dose. That is 90% less than current prices in the United States. Mr. Rowland says the agreement is a huge achievement for the developing world. He says vaccination is a life or death question for poor people. If you can vaccinate a child to prevent a disease from happening, it is a lot more cost-effective than it is to treat that disease afterwards. And that's the VOA Special English Development Report. For transcripts and podcasts of our programs, along with captioned videos and a lot more, visit us at voaspecialenglish.com. You can also find us
This is the
Facebook.
VOA Special English Technology Report. What do Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, and Larry Ellison have in common? They all made billions of dollars in technology, and they all left college. Now, a wealthy businessman is paying other technologically talented young people to follow that same path. Peter Thiel is paying them to drop out, or at least to stop out of higher education temporarily to work on their interests. He and his Thiel Foundation have announced the first group of what they call 20 under 20 Thiel Fellows. He says, "We selected people on the basis of a combination of having demonstrated intense passion about science and technology, and then having the drive to try to carry it forward in the years ahead." There are 24 people to be exact, because a couple of projects involve more than one person. One of the youngest is Laura Deming. At 12, she began researching ways to extend human life. Now, at 17, she has already graduated from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. 18-year-old John Marbach just finished high school. He hopes to use web tools to bring classrooms into the digital age. He plans to attend one semester of college before he begins his fellowship. Each of the fellows will receive $100,000 over 2 years to continue their research. They will also receive help from experts. Peter Thiel has a lot of experience with technology startup businesses. He helped create the electronic payment system, PayPal. He was also one of the first investors in Facebook. He himself is a graduate of Stanford University and Stanford Law School in California. But Mr. Thiel says college has gotten a lot more expensive than when he attended school 25 years ago. You now have people graduating with $250,000 worth of debt, and they end up having to spend years or decades paying the debt off. The Obama administration is pushing college. It says over the next 10 years, nearly half of all new jobs will require more than a high school education. But Peter Thiel says many young people choose college for the wrong reasons. Talented, high school, what do? You go to college. Good in college, what do? You go to law school. Higher education becomes almost this way for not thinking and avoiding thinking about what you're going to do with your life. He says the young people he is investing in will, at the very least, gain experience to take back to school if that is what they decide to do. For VOA Special English, I'm Alex Villarreal with the VOA Special English Technology Report. Each year, Americans throw away millions of tons of electronic devices. That means business is good for a small electronics recycler in Chantilly, Virginia. Company president Jeremy Faber established PC Recycler. He spoke to us from the floor of his company's processing center. Workers were busy taking apart televisions, cell phones, and computers, anything electronic. Jeremy Faber says the flow of discarded electronics is only increasing. He says electronics recycling is the fastest growing waste stream in the United States right now. Recycling electronic waste is not a single job. Newer devices can be rebuilt and resold. Breaking down electronics into small parts for refiners to melt and purify is another part. Operations Manager Andrew Porter says computer circuit boards are rich resources for metals, including gold. Gold now sells for more than $1,300 an ounce. 25% of PC Recycler's sales come from selling parts to refiners. Refining companies pay more than $10 a kilogram for computer boards. PC Recycler can also increase profits by holding metal-rich parts until prices rise. Computers also hold private or secret information, and securing that data is the fastest growing part of the recycling business. Completely removing data from a computer hard drive is not easy. PC Recycler can remove data magnetically or completely destroy and recycle the drives. Discarding waste in a way that meets government environmental protection rules is also important. Old TVs can contain over a kilogram of lead, as well as cadmium, both highly poisonous. PC Recycler supports the Basel Action Network, which seeks to limit harmful waste and technology. The company says it does not export electronics to China, India, or Africa, where environmental rules are weak. Jeremy Faber says PC Recycler has been in business since 2003, expanding from waste management to other, more technical services. For VOA Special English, I'm Alex Villarreal. You can go to voaspecialenglish.com and click on the classroom to explore our new English teaching activities. You can also find us on Twitter and Facebook at VOA Learning English.
From VOA Learning English, this is the Technology Report. Computer makers are working on ways to persuade people to buy personal computers. Companies at the recent Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas talked about new developments like touch computers or laptops that turn into tablets. The chip manufacturer Intel made a surprise announcement at the show. Mike Fard says his company is taking steps to reduce power requirements on some processors. He says Intel is constantly trying to provide more battery life. Yet, sales of PCs are slow. Research company IDC reported that worldwide sales of PCs dropped 14% in the first 3 months of 2013. The company said this was the worst drop since it started collecting information in 1994. One possible reason for the slow sales is the rise of tablet computers, such as Apple's iPad. Intel and its competitors have sought to improve sales by offering new products. These include the Ultrabook, a thin, lightweight notebook computer which came out in 2011. But they have not lifted sales. Industry experts are also concerned about reaction to Microsoft's Windows 8 operating system. It was released last October. Bob O'Donnell, an IDC vice president, said the Windows 8 launch not only failed to increase PC sales, but seemed to have slowed the market. He has criticized the company for making radical changes, such as removing the Start button from the operating system. Windows Corporate Vice President Julie Lawson Green announced this month that Microsoft will release a Windows 8 update. She expects the first public preview of the update to take place in June. For VOA Learning English, I'm Laurel Bowman.
This is the VOA Special English Development Report. Diarrhea kills 1.5 million children each year. 1 in 5 child deaths worldwide. The only disease that kills more children under age 5 is pneumonia. Experts say diarrhea causes more child deaths than AIDS, malaria, and measles combined. New findings show it also kills more than 1 million adolescents and elderly people every year. Therese Dooley is a senior advisor at UNICEF, the United Nations Children's Fund. She says in addition to the deaths, there are about 2.5 billion cases of diarrhea among children every year. But a new report says 60% of those in developing countries do not get the recommended treatment. The report, appearing in the Lancet Medical Journal, is from UNICEF and the World Health Organization. It includes a 7-point plan for countries to use to prevent and treat diarrhea. The condition causes fluid loss and reduces the body's supply of zinc. This mineral is needed for normal growth and development. For the past 5 years, UNICEF and the WHO have recommended zinc supplements to treat diarrhea. They also recommend fluid replacement solutions made from what are called low osmolarity oral rehydration salts. Yet zinc supplements remain largely unavailable in the developing world. And the fluid replacement solutions can also be difficult to find. A leading cause of diarrhea in children is the rotavirus. Public health officials are now advised to include the rotavirus vaccine in all national immunization programs. But the vaccine is still not available in many developing countries. The report says new ways to expand the use of treatments are now being developed. Proposals include, for example, supplying treatment kits through community health workers or special campaigns. Experts say children with diarrhea should continue to eat and babies should continue to breastfeed. To help prevent diarrhea, the report suggests that children receive both the rotavirus and measles vaccines. It also calls for improving supplies of clean water in developing countries. Another prevention measure is hand washing with soap. Diarrhea can be easy to prevent. Campaigns to fight childhood diarrhea had some success during the 1970s and 80s. The authors of the report hope this new plan will help return the issue to worldwide importance. And that's the VOA Special English Development
VOA
Report.
Learning English. This is the Technology Report in Special English. The United States Environmental Protection Agency says there is a problem with America's garbage. Only 7% of plastic waste in the United States is recycled each year. JBI, a new company in northern New York, says it can increase that percentage and, at the same time, reduce America's dependence on foreign oil. How? The answer may surprise you. JBI has a machine it calls the plastic eating monster. Every hour, thousands of kilograms of waste milk jugs, water bottles, and grocery bags from landfills across the country are fed into the machine. John Bordnick, who runs the company, invented a new process for turning plastic into fuel by melting all these different kinds of plastics together. John Bordnick says the plastics are melted down into a black liquid. Then he uses a special chemical to turn the fluid into a vapor. This reduces the plastic to its most basic elements. These basic elements have a very high fuel value. JBI produces several thousand liters of fuel a day. It creates different grades of fuel for different industries, and it sells the fuel for up to $100 a barrel. JBI is in a good position because each barrel only costs about $10 to produce. John Bordnick believes plastics will become an important source of fuel for the United States. He says this will reduce the country's dependence on foreign oil and reduce the amount of plastic waste in its landfills. For VOA Learning English, I'm Carol.
This is the VOA Special English Development Report. Americans bought an estimated 18.5 million bicycles last year. Some bikes never got much riding. Mostly they gather dust. But a project based in Washington is putting unwanted bikes from the United States to good use in developing countries. Keith Oberg is the director of Bikes for the World. He says everybody has an old bicycle, and it is usually not ridden. It sits there in the garage or basement or shed, going to waste. Stephen Popick recently had 2 bikes to donate. He brought in 2 mountain bikes that he and his wife rode for the past 10 years. He said they would not be worth trying to sell, but they could be useful to somebody else. Bikes for the World collects bicycles and delivers them at low cost to community programs in developing countries. It shipped more than 5,000 bikes during the first 8 months of this year. Last year, it shipped about 10,300. The bicycle recycling program is one of the largest in the United States. It is a sponsored project of the Washington Area Bicyclist Association. Bikes for the World began in 2005. Since then, it has shipped more than 40,000 bikes to communities in Africa, Latin America, and the Caribbean, says Director Keith Oberg. He said they are working with partners in 7 countries. They have sent bikes to Namibia and the Gambia. In Central America, they sent bikes to Panama, Costa Rica, Honduras, and Guatemala. And they are talking to 2 organizations in El Salvador. Bikes for the World partners with nonprofit groups in the United States to collect unwanted bikes. Then it works with nonprofits in the other countries to get the bikes to organizations and individuals that need them the most. For example, the Bicycle Empowerment Network Namibia, uses the bikes to provide transportation for health workers. That makes it possible for them to visit more patients each day. The organization also has bicycle ambulance services to transport the sick. The Bicycle Empowerment Network also provides training and support to help local organizations and individuals open bike shops of their own. The businesses sell the recycled bikes at low cost and provide repair services. Many of the organizations use the money they earn to help pay for other community projects. And that's the VOA Special English
I'm Alex
Development
Villarreal
Report.
with the VOA Special English Development Report. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton has announced a plan to get cleaner burning cooking stoves into developing countries. The plan aims to reduce deaths caused by smoke from the traditional use of solid fuels and open fires. Almost half the world's people breathe smoke from coal and biomass fuels like wood, dung, and crop waste. The smoke can lead to lung cancer, heart disease, low birth weight, and other problems. It also increases the risk of pneumonia, a leading cause of death in young children. Women and children are most at risk because they spend the most time in the kitchen. Also, in areas of conflict, the search for fuel puts women at increased risk of violence. The goal of the Global Alliance for Clean Cook Stoves is 100 million homes using safer cook stoves and fuels by the year 2020. Secretary Clinton said that clean stoves could make as big a difference in the world as bed nets or vaccines. She said, "The World Health Organization considers smoke from dirty stoves to be one of the 5 most serious health risks that face people in poor developing countries. Nearly 2 million people die from its effects each year, more than twice the number from malaria. And because the smoke contains greenhouse gases such as carbon dioxide and methane, as well as black carbon, it contributes to climate change." Founding partners in the alliance include governments and United Nations agencies, nonprofit groups, and the energy company Shell. The alliance hopes to raise at least $250 million within 10 years. The United States has promised to donate more than $50 million over the next 5 years. The aim is to create a strong global market for clean cook stoves. The alliance will identify target markets and work to get women involved in business operations. It will also develop indoor air quality guidelines, test clean stoves and fuels, and develop research roadmaps. The United States Environmental Protection Agency has donated $6 million towards the effort. EPA Administrator Lisa Jackson says the problem of cook stove pollution is really an issue of poverty. For VOA Special English, I'm Alex Villarreal. You can read and listen to our programs and learn more about projects in the developing world at voaspecialenglish.com.
From VOA Learning English, this is the Technology Report. On May 20th, a tornado brought death and destruction to the American community of Moore, Oklahoma. The tornado had wind speeds of up to 400 kilometers an hour. 24 people died when the storm cut through the city. People had only 15 minutes to react to warnings. Some fled Moore or took refuge in the most secure area of their home. The lucky ones took cover in underground shelters or steel and concrete structures called safe rooms. Leslie Chapman Henderson is head of a nonprofit group called the Federal Alliance for Safe Homes. She is a big supporter of tornado-safe rooms. She says they can help reduce the number of tornado deaths. A safe room is built to resist high winds and flying wreckage. Sky Strohal survived the tornado in Moore. He watched as it moved in his direction. He and a friend ran to a neighbor's underground shelter only minutes before the storm struck. Better methods for predicting storms give people like Sky Strohal and his friend more time. But they need someplace safe to go. Structures can be built to resist strong winds, but not all structures may be able to resist a tornado as strong as the one that hit Moore. It was rated F5, the highest possible rating. Moore lies in an area of the United States called Tornado Alley. Powerful storm systems are common. The tornado in May was the fourth to strike the city in 14 years. Moore's mayor is pushing for laws requiring safe rooms in all new buildings. Similar proposals followed other tornado strikes, but no laws were passed. For VOA Learning English, I'm Laurel Bowman.